Okay,
You
let's jump. Let's get to the main point. Well, what exactly does this have
let
to
me get
do
to the
with
main point.
proving that the story that happened?
Okay, you said it's literal, a flood and three sons. I'm addressing only the three sons part right now, which I've never spoken to you about before, because they are personality types, hot-headed and easily persuaded, and then him with the name. That's what those words mean. So the story is saying there's this one person whose name you would recognize, and then he has two brothers. One's hot-headed, and the other one can be persuaded. This is talking about the religious and irreligious people who are brothers of him whose name you would recognize. That's what the story reads. But you don't know that. And you don't read at that kind of depth. And you
To
don't care.
clarify,
And
to
you don't
clarify, you're
care
saying that
enough
these
to
are not.
even find out.
Wait, I just want to make sure I'm on the right track. So you're saying that these are not actual, like, real people. It just like symbolizes
They're
something.
real people. You're one of them.
So this isn't like a story that happened, a long time ago. This is something playing out today.
It's
Okay,
talking,
ETT is asking, do you believe that these are concrete historical persons,
of course not.
or okay?
Of course not. They are you and Irenic and Brojo and myself.
Wait a second. Let me comment on that real quick. I have something pulled up. Genesis 9, verse 23, it says, And Shem and Japheth took a garment and laid it upon their shoulders and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father. And their
Can we talk
faces were
about that before you
backward,
read
and
anymore,
they
please?
and they saw not their father's nakedness. So the reason I'm bringing it up is you're saying these are like not literal people that happened back then. So how do we make sense of this? Because I'm reading this and it's
I'd love
clearly
to.
telling me about two people here who did this
Yes,
action.
they are people. I never denied that. Okay, they are personality types. As to whether or not a person can be persuaded or if they get pissed off about the topic at hand. The topic at hand is the giver of rest. That's what the word Noah means. So the giver of rest has sons. That makes sense in the Bible. One of his sons, you would recognize his name. That makes sense in the Bible. Then two of his brothers, you would recognize them by personality type. They are the religious and irreligious. Those who can be persuaded, whether they were fooled, whether they really understand or not, they were persuaded. And those who are hot headed, that is, people like Matt Dillahunty.
Okay, so
Well,
you're
he's kind
saying
of to be
it's
to be
like
fair, he's kind of chilled out.
Yeah, he's
Fair
bald.
enough.
He doesn't have a very hot head.
right. I'm simply trying to make sense of what he's saying, right? And anybody can see I'm being very friendly and respectable, right? This brother's the one throwing the jabs, but anyway, we'll keep it
Who's
friendly.
throwing jabs?
Um, well,
Did
I
I
mean,
insult you or something?
you criticized me a couple minutes ago, but it's no big deal, no big deal.
No, I
Well,
said you
criticize.
literally can't. If you did care, you would know already what I'm talking about, but you don't know, and that means you don't care.
What I'm saying is your statement about this being a personality type, but not
Uh-huh.
actual two literal people in the story, where that's cut with what I brought up there. So I don't know how we can get around that.
Okay, how we get around it is you actually consider an idea or proposition that you don't presently hold.
But
That's how
but
we get around
but
it.
oh my goodness. Do you understand that I literally fit that? Because let me give you an example. I used to believe when I was in Christianity, I used to believe that God loves everybody. But guess what? Then I learned that my belief I had was incorrect. So I put that to the side. I used to believe
Good for
that
you.
Satan was an enemy of God. But then I learned that that wasn't right. So I put it to the side. I used to believe that
So you
reincarnation
can
was
learn
like
things.
a
Good for
false.
you.
So your
Well,
statement just got clearly debunked.
what? Where'd you
Your
get that
statement is
from?
your statement that you said something along the lines
I
that
didn't say you can't learn. Anybody want to quote the
Yeah.
timestamp where I
Can we
said
move
he
on,
can't
please? Can
learn?
we get voice how personal? Can we just get to the?
Yeah, to
yeah,
the
yeah,
argument.
it's like let's just get to the conversation. So
Okay,
Richard,
So
so
yeah,
there
let
is
me get some
no.
clarification here. I'll get some clarification for you, ETT. Richard, do you believe Noah and these three people that are mentioned in the Bible are they actual individuals? Are there four individual persons?
Obviously, the Father is a singular individual, and so is the Son. Everyone else are personality types. I'm one of those personality types. So are you, and everyone else.
So only two of them are real.
No, they're all real. You're real. I'm real.
That's
I'm
why I
talking about
use
the
the
people
term
in the
concrete.
story.
That's why I
Are
use
they
the term
singular?
concrete historical.
Yeah,
Yeah.
are they historical figures?
I don't think it was ever meant to be historically singular people.
Okay.
Japheth and Ham are not supposed to be. This is a form of storytelling in that part of the world at that time. It's a very traditional form of storytelling. It's not unusual to do it, to tell this story this way, not in any way.
Does that
Wait,
clarify for you?
okay, give me the mic for a second. So with the statement he just ended off there saying, it's not unusual to explain in this type of way around the world, I had to respond and say, well, this shows that the story actually is true, that there was a giant flood that happened, because all these civilizations around the world have a story about a few people surviving a great flood that took place. Now, real quick, let me just read this.
Wait, before you say another thing, could I respond to the thing you've already said, please?
Yes, but then it's on the same topic.
Thank you. You can't add to my words after you say that you quoted me, because I never said around the world. You can't add that idea and just gloss over it without someone noticing. Personally, I did.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I did as well.
Yeah.
So don't even try that
Okay.
crap.
He said in that part of the world at that time.
So there's other cultures in that part of the world, right? I mean, I think you're just playing a word play. Like you do acknowledge that there are cultures around the world who do hold a belief that there was an ancient
Don't
flood.
change
You
the
can
topic,
acknowledge that,
please.
right?
Please stay to one.
Can you just tell me yes or no? Do you acknowledge that?
No, I will stay to one topic. You wanted to
Oh,
talk about the
okay.
flood.
We'll
Let's
we'll
talk about
say
the flood.
okay for the audience listening. We'll say that he doesn't know that. So I'll continue. Genesis chapter 7, verse 7. And Noah went in, and his sons, and his wife, and his sons' wives with him into the ark because of the flood of the waters. So could you please show me why this is not like these are not real people that are actually entering into a physical ark
Please,
with physical water?
if I could answer that, yes. Well, here's some things additionally. You never troubled yourself, because you're not a serious enough student, to look up what these things mean. There has never been a tree called gopher wood. There's never been lumber called gopher wood. That's a mistranslation, a misunderstanding of a Hebrew idiom. The idea of a gopher is some varmint you can't get rid of. It's the idea of being permanently housed. It does not read as it does in the King James. It does not read an ark of gopher wood. What it does read is a container of permanent housing. Now, if I asked you biblically, what is a container of permanent housing of people? Permanent. What would I be talking about? This permanent container housing people. What's that?
That's the kingdom of heaven.
Yes, that's correct. So the giver of rest is in the kingdom of heaven, or Noah is in the ark of gopher wood, and he has a son whose name you would I can go through the whole story. And besides, the Bible troubles itself, and every word will match perfectly with this idea. Whereas your ideas that you're expressing presently, the way that I'm understanding them, and I could be wrong, is saying there was a worldwide flood of H2O, which I don't see the story claiming.
You want to hear something funny?
Okay. Oh, wait. Let me just respond to that, and I'll let someone else chime in. He said, "I don't see the story claiming that." Let me just read this for the audience real quick. Genesis 7. I'll go to verse 19. It says, "And the waters prevailed exceedingly upon the earth, and all the high hills that were under the whole heaven were covered. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh
Yes.
died that moved upon the earth, both of fowl and of cattle and of beasts, and every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth, and every man. And in all whose nostrils was the breath of life, of all that was in the dry land died. And every living substance that was destroyed upon the face of the ground, both man and cattle, and of creeping things, and the fowls of heaven, they were destroyed from off the earth." So when I read that, I mean that in itself is clear evidence that the Bible is talking about a real
Yeah.
massive flood that actually took place.
I
If
get it.
just hold on, I'm going to give you a chance to respond.
Mm.
If I am having a misunderstanding of this, could you please tell me what this is
I've been, and I'm trying to give you just example after example, and I could just keep going forever, but it's not going to convince you unless you do the work yourself, because you can convince yourself, but I can't convince you. Do you understand that the word there that came out, fountains, actually, if you look into it, it has to be an eye shape. It has to be shaped like a human eyeball or an animal's eye, and it has to emit stuff that cries. Now, if you think that H2O cries rather than babies cry, and if you think that the fountain is like a hole in the earth rather than a birth canal, and if I mean, I
hold on
don't.
a second, Richard. Yeah, before you keep going on, before you go, I want to give Rex a chance before he forgets his thought.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh shit! I done forgot. Where'd all this water come from?
You
Where'd
better
all
write all
this?
this shit down then.
The waters is identified in the Bible as being peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. It refers to armies as being like waves, on and on and on, literally hundreds of times. It calls us waters. And then the Christians want to say it means H2O.
Well, yeah, I talked to a guy who said the craters on the moon is where the water shot out of the moon during the flood and landed on the earth.
Sorry. I'm sorry you
Oh,
had to hear
wow.
that.
Leave that. Yeah.
Of course, we know that's not true, sir.
Well, I know it's not true, but that's what he believed.
I know, but he's welcome to delude himself anyway. He wants the text just doesn't claim these things.
You're hitting the nail on the head with the hammer right now. Deluded.
Yep. Yeah, I know.
Okay, hold on a second. I want to make this clear. As I've said before, there are instances in the Bible that we see water being compared to people. I don't deny that, but there's certainly many other places where we don't see that correlation. Like, let me give you an example real quick. Before I get cut off, please let me form my sentence. I would appreciate it. So here's one for you. What about like with the Exodus story, right? When the Egyptians, they chased the Israelites through the Red Sea, and then it says that the sea, came back on the Egyptians after the Israelites got to the other side. So I just want to understand that. So you're saying that the Red Sea crossing miracle, that didn't literally happen?
Yes, I'm saying it is told in a story form, and that retribution belongs to God, and the deluge there, which is the retribution of God, is angels. It's not H2O, which is why it does intelligent things.
Could you like visualize this for me? Like show me like how this went down? Because when I picture this, I picture the Egyptians going through the sea that was split in the middle, and then when the Israelites got to the other side, God closed the water, and all those men and the horses, they drowned. But from your perspective, I want to see like how can you illustrate this event taking place? If my
I
understanding,
get it. I get it. He visualizes the Charlton Heston movie Moses.
Yes.
Right.
Basically.
That's what he sees. So, okay, how do you see it, Rich?
Well, I can imagine the angels would be like a line of people standing up, and then they
Look, man,
aside.
We heard that. We heard that already. Let Richard respond.
Okay.
When did you hear it?
I just want to continue with the story in the part that you quoted for just a few words that I'm sure no one here, except maybe Hillary's, has ever bothered themselves to look up. Hillary's tends to do that, like I do.
Well, Hillary's is pedantic. So,
yes, so am I. I'm super pedantic. It's true. But damn it,
maybe it was a lot of women that were on their period.
Oh, God damn it!
No, that would have been Mayim. That would have been juice. That would have been the yes. It would have been the Hebrew word juice or Mayim. That's what that would have been for period. I'm just saying that's how they would have said it, but because it's a human juice. Anyway, all right. So the parting of the sea of reeds. It's not a red like a color. Okay. And it's not red like I looked at something and there were letters and I interpreted the letters. It's reed, as in papyrus reeds. Now, it essentially means a swamp. Now you may or may not be aware that, like a bovine with a cloven hoof can walk easily amongst a swamp of reeds. And you may not be aware that a very large-footed animal, like perhaps a polar bear, can also walk on that. But the root ball of that particular plant makes a little like a volcano shape, like a really pointed, and then the stem comes out of the center of that. And they grow very close together. So the human foot has nowhere to walk. It can't walk on top because the foot's not big enough, and it can't fit in between because the foot's not hard enough. So it's talking about something that's an impasse to a human. Got it?
I mean, I find that to be quite reaching, to be quite honest. I don't. Oh my goodness. So let me just get it straight. So there's never a reference in the Bible to like actual physical, like say for example, water that we drink to survive.
Sure,
Like
there
there's no
is.
actual reference to it.
Sure, it uses the word water.
So the examples I've given are not talking about water.
Well, I don't know.
No,
Did you
and
quote
pluralized.
words that said waters, and then you don't differentiate between the word?
So you're. Oh, wait a second. So you're making the claim that whenever it says waters with an s at the end, it's talking about
Yes.
like a metaphorical. But whenever it uses the word water, it's literal water.
Well, okay, when it talks about watering animals or plants, that's H2O. Okay, if you can accept that. Like fetching water out of a well, but it'll say water. In fact, it'll never say someone fetched waters out of a well because there's no humans down a well. It doesn't make sense. Okay, but the word mayim, which Simos just recalled to me, is juice, as in fruit juices. Also any human juices. Also urine. Also sperm. It's entirely possible menstrual discharge could be called mayim. But you'll never find in the Hebrew language a reference to even 200 gallons of mayim. To say that it was a worldwide flood of mayim is a most ridiculous idea. It's like saying, oh, the world was flooded with coconut juice. You just can't gather that much coconut. There's not enough coconut to do that. Or the world was covered in sperm. No. There's not enough people to provide that much sperm, man.
Well, there were a lot of whales back then.
Yeah, I was getting ready to
Well,
say
you
that.
have
Simon.
I mean,
I was totally getting ready
Yeah.
to say that. Oh, and dolphins, you know.
oh yeah. But my point is, you
And
could not have a
donkeys.
world. You can't have a worldwide flood of juice. It's the wrong term. And then when you look into the word, they got translated water instead of waters, which mayim is waters. If you look into that, it's a completely different word, which means like an ocean, either salt or fresh. It's a different word that does mean large amount of water, H2O, and then they don't use it for that story ever. Now, do you think they don't know their own language, or do you think they meant juice and some Christian didn't know the Jewish language enough to know the difference between juice and a lake?
Are you going to tell me the rabbis are going to interpret it the way you do?
Oh, I know they do.
Not the Christians, but you're going to tell me the rabbis interpret
The Jews who actually read and know their own language agree with me. Mayim, literally juice. It's never a large amount. It can't be.
It's just a little.
Yeah, speaking of not very large amounts of juice, I'm off to bed. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, Simon.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Wait a second. I got a
Maybe
good
that
one.
time. It's happy 420, everybody.
Woohoo!
Man,
Woo! Take a break, please. Where is my drop?
Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day. Smoke weed every day.
All right, I'll give you guys 10 more minutes because then I'm out of here.
Okay. Okay, let me go first. Let me go first. I just
You
pulled
went
this up.
first the last time, I thought.
Well, you just finished making your statement, right? You were just talking for a minute,
I haven't
so I
asked
think
you any
it's fair.
questions.
Wait,
Okay,
did
well,
Richard say
how
He
something?
about
spoke,
this?
he spoke last because he was replying.
Okay, let's do this. Let's be fair. Let me just bring up one more verse, and then you can ask me a question for the remaining of the show. Is
Wait,
that fine?
let's be fair.
Lovely.
When is life ever fair? I mean,
Your dad lied to you.
Okay,
yeah,
well,
life is
this
not
verse.
fucking fair.
Okay, this verse completely blows this guy out of the water. Because remember, his statement was about if it uses the word
Life
water, it's real water. If
out
it
of the
uses the word waters,
Hmm.
it means people, is what he said. Okay,
Okay.
this is
Well, actually, he was more specific. He mentioned the Hebrew words, not the English words.
I don't care much
Okay.
about your translation, as I've expressed to you several times.
Okay. 2 Peter chapter 3 and verse 5, it says, "For this they are willingly ignorant of that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the water and in the water, whereby the world that was then being overflowed with water perished. But the heavens and the earth which are now by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men." So here it's saying that the world that was before got overthrown by water, and it uses the word water,
Pause.
not
Yes.
food. So you're
Pause.
cut.
Pause.
We're not watching a video, Rex.
Well, just because it says that shit in the Bible does not make it true. And
Okay.
you're saying
If
it's
I'm
like
So they're just going with it. Let them just go.
okay, ETT. If I am correct, then I don't need there to be waters, liquid in outer space, and you do. Now we all know that space is cold. In fact, it's so cold there's ice, but there's no liquid water. Okay.
You're talking
Yet the
about the
Bible.
infinite space.
Can I finish?
I'm just saying
Thank
to
you.
clarify so I understand what you're saying.
No, you're not clarifying. But you're not letting. If I finish the thought, you will understand. Trust me for just a
Go ahead.
moment.
Yep.
So when the Bible says there is waters separated, that means we're not in heaven with the angels. Would you agree that the angels are also a large group made from juices, and we're a large group made from juices, and that we're separate? And there are waters above and waters below. So the prior waters on an earth is our situation right now. From the perspective of heaven, we will look back at this and say we were on an earth and separate from heaven. Does that make sense?
Not necessarily, because we'll have a different understanding as to what the waters above means. I believe in the flat Earth model, but you, I perceive, don't perceive
my God.
that model of the universe. But we won't get into that. We won't get into that. So I'll say,
no.
how did I fucking know this guy was the flat earther?
Because
I
he's
said it
religious
before.
beyond logic.
I was kind of
Religious. Wait a second. Religious beyond logic. You do know that the people in the Bible believe the Earth was flat, right?
No, they didn't.
No, they did not.
Oh, really? They didn't. How do you know?
Because people
Because
at that
We
time
got
in
6
that
minutes
part of the
left to
world,
this game of whack-a-mole.
Wait. Let
Did-
him finish.
it was never
No.
that's a very recent belief that the Bible is claiming the earth is flat.
Where does it claim that it's a bowl?
Because the word circle is the same as the word sphere. There's two different words for it, but the intent is the same. And in fact, if you get far enough away from a ball, it looks like a circle. Try closing one eye.
Okay, now, Richard, you do agree that something can be flat and be a circle at the same time,
I
right?
am not doing this flat
Oh,
Earth con.
Jesus.
No,
Pizza,
I'm
for
not.
instance, yes, I've heard
I
of
am
pizza.
not doing this flat Earth argument. We get back
There
to
you
no
go.
Earth
We'll
or
go
not.
back.
You got
Okay,
5
we'll
We've
go
minutes.
back
known
to the other side. We'll go back
known
to
the Earth is a sphere since 3500 BC,
Yeah.
Yes.
way
And the
before
Jews-
Jesus.
Thank you. It's actually a recent idea, a recent translation. You're being very nuevo.
like that word. You should use it more.
Now you get back to Noah's flood. We finish up there.
So my point is, in Noah's flood, absolutely every word, even the untranslated one, which you assume and the translators assumed were Hebrew names, all fit the story quite perfectly to tell the following. You live on an earth. It sucks. You're not in heaven. It sucks. But someday, the giver of rest is going to show up in the permanent house, and he is going to flood the earth with these things that came from semen. And they are going to be such a deluge, it's going to blow your mind. And you won't have any control of it whatsoever. You'll be completely at their mercy. And what you're going to go through is you're going to go through discordance. That's the name of the land on the other side of the Reed Sea. And you're going to be in agony, the desert of Agon, where you are lost in a wilderness and you are lamenting it. And you'll even, some of your friends will say, we were better off before these suckers got here.
Can we wrap it up?
Wait, real quick. Who are those people?
I'm giving you. I'm going to give you the last. I'm going to give you the last word, ETT, right now. For if you could do it